Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to our first meeting of 2025, and hopefully everybody's had a good festive season. I'll now officially call the meeting to order, and the time is 1 o'clock. And we'll start with our land acknowledgement and a moment of silent reflection, please.
That bind us together, the foundation for all life. These lands serve as a keeper of history and stories and are a source of inspiration. In recognizing this, we embrace that all living things possess an important energy and purpose. We extend the utmost gratitude to the original people who have been caretakers of these lands and waters of this region from time immemorial. Until this day, we continue this commitment. Because our county's dedication to reconciliation remains steadfast. In this spirit, we are committed to nurturing meaningful partnerships and connections that contribute to an environment of prosperity and well-being for all generations to come. This acknowledgement was made on the Treaty 20 land on the territory of the Mississaugas and Missinabas, and within the traditional lands of the Mississaugas and Tuckahoe nations. This is the land of the Indian Chiefs was mentioned. Further, our community extended generations every day
I will now ask any members to declare any pecuniary interest before council. Seeing no hands, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. May I get a motion to approve today's agenda as circulated or amended? Councillor Ward?
Circulated.
As circulated. Seconder, Councillor Hodge Greaves. All in favor of that motion? Motion's carried. Approval of the minutes of the prior meeting minutes. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the regular meeting minutes of December 10th and the special meeting minutes of December 16th as presented or amended. Deputy Mayor Burt.
As presented.
As presented. Second by Councillor Hodge Greaves. Any comments? All in favor? Motion is carried. Do we, moving along to the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, we have correspondence items C1 through C10, staff reports R1 through R6, and the Cultural and Heritage Committee minutes of December 9th. Do we have somebody to approve as circulated and or amended? Deputy Mayor Burt.
And I will be asking for a couple.
All right. A seconder, Councillor Ward. Deputy Mayor Burt.
If I could pull C5 and C6 just for a
Okay.
comment and question.
Do you want to comment right now?
I can, unless somebody else has something.
No,
No.
go ahead.
Okay. So no, just C5. I just wanted all of council and anybody who might be listening, just a reminder that the Board of Health has amalgamated it now. So there'll be some pretty big changes coming forward in the coming months. So just to watch that. And as far as C6 goes, I just wanted to ask staff, under the water wastewater utility feasibility study, they talked about a municipal services corporation for small to medium sized municipalities. It's the first I've seen that or paid attention to it, at least. You know anything about that?
Alan?
Through you, Mayor. At the annual conference last August, they did a meeting on that. I was in attendance at that meeting. At that point, it was more a gathering of information and just seeing what members of the municipal sector thought. So from what I gathered, they've taken that back and they decided they are going to proceed with it. I think
Okay.
it's very early stages at this point.
All right.
And we'll have to wait and see what happens with it.
Okay, thank you.
And it is in the Peterborough Examiner today, the amalgamation of the Board of Health.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it is. Councillor Hodge?
Yeah, I was going to R2, just the Public Works quarterly update. It was just a quick question. Alan, I don't know if CAO do it, is Jeff's the public works manager's not here, just the circular recycling program. Are they looking at removing the recycling bins from the transfer station? Is that what that means?
Through you, Mayor. We have a meeting coming up later this week and we'll be getting more detail from them. We're not particularly in favor of that idea. We'll have some more conversations.
I mean, it's a social hour on Saturday morning, so,
Well,
yeah.
that's not why we like it necessarily, but I would acknowledge that, yeah. You know, we
Okay.
expect to have some more conversation, and at this point, I would describe it as to be determined.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, and is everybody in favor of passing? Okay, motion was made. We have no delegations today, so we'll move along to staff reports. Fire Chief Darrell Payne, please.
Through you, your mayor. The RFP for the master fire plan was submitted through social media, contacted some suppliers directly. And unfortunately, we only had 2 responses. But the emergency management group is the number one in this area. They've done master fire plans for all their neighbors. And they're very happy with the results. The problem was the difference in the costing. There's quite a difference there. The difference was the 29,500 to SMRT, up to 49,835 for emergency management group. And during the process, all 3 of the evaluators took that into account when we did rate them. And they still did come out, all 3 were unanimous in picking the emergency management group. SMRT has never done a master fire plan, though they've done many other types of plans, they've never done. So I don't think that Asphodel-Norwood would like to be the first one. So we have to have somebody with a little bit of experience and knowledge with the process. So we recommended that council approve emergency management group to proceed with their master fire plan.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor War.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor, and thank you for answering some of the questions earlier. I just wanted to ask our CAO if there might be any grant opportunities to help to facilitate, going ahead with this master fire plan, if there's anything that we could look at. And the second, I have a second question. I'll let you answer that one first.
Through you, Mayor. There are not any current grants that I'm aware of that would be beneficial to this one. We are always looking for grants. As a matter of fact, we already had one of our grant committee meetings this week to be looking at what's out there. If we see something that we think would be a fit, we would definitely get an application in for it. The challenge we'll have with this one a little bit is that sort of once we go award the contract, once we start, we don't fit for a lot of grant applications after that, but we always keep our eye on it.
Okay, and the second question was the other townships in the area that have had the master fire plans. That would be a public record. Is there any chance that we could maybe see one of the, an example of from another township that's had it done, if it's possible?
I could ask our neighbors, yeah.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Deputy Member.
Thank you through you. I did reach out to Fire Chief Payne yesterday. I rarely go against staff recommendations. I don't like doing it. I do struggle with the fact that it's a big difference. $20,000 is a lot of money on a $50,000 piece of service. And so I guess certainly when you're breaking down the evaluation, obviously experience, reputation, and resources, 45%. So that's a big chunk. And I would say the experience piece is right up there because the others haven't done it. So besides that, like as far as their work plan, timeline, that sort of thing, completeness of proposal, where did that fit into the comparison with the EMG between the two? Either one.
Yeah, with the EMG proposal, it's much more detailed. In reviewing the proposals, you could tell that they had done this type of work before. They haven't done it. They're the gold standard on it. They've done it they've been around for like 25 years. Full disclosure, I have worked with them when I was CEO at another municipality. I know the level of work that they do. So considering what we're going to be using the plan for, to weigh that, and no disrespect to the other group, if you haven't done one of these plans before, the chief mentioned it, I'm not so sure I want to be the first municipality to do. I'd like to.
Right.
You know, and so when we say they scored, that one, they scored the highest and there was a significant difference. Am I happy about the price difference? I'm not particularly happy about the price difference. Are we going to mention that to them when we have conversation? We're going to mention that to them. We have that conversation with them. But I do think if we want the best result for the municipality, this is the best decision we can make.
Counselor Ward?
Thank you through Mayor. If I may have a follow-up. I was just going to follow up on what Deputy Mayor Burt was saying. What about a timeline? What are we looking at for having these plans done and completed?
We're hoping to have it done by late summer, early fall.
Okay.
Any further questions? All right, I'll read the recommended motion that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information and further the council awards the RFP 2024-04 to Emergency Management Group. Can I have a mover, Councillor Ward, seconder, Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? Motion is carried. Moving along, we'll move to R8, which is Jordan Webb, our treasurer, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. R8 is a report on the 2025 Norwood Water, Norwood Wastewater, and Trenton Estates distributions budgets. In a minute, I'm going to take you through the presentation for each of the departments and the budgets and answer any questions that you have. Just a couple things before we go through. The first presentation is that there are significant budgetary pressures being experienced in the 2025 budgets. Some of these pressures includes capital project costing, development revenue that we had anticipated in previous years that we will not see or we aren't forecasting for 2025. Inflation is an issue year over year, and then also our municipal insurance increase of 16%, which we presented, I think, a few weeks ago to council. My partner here today is Adam, so he'll take you through some of the capital project details as we get to it. To keep everything consistent from last year, we've tried to utilize the same presentation, so we're not complicating the information that you're getting. If there are any questions, you can wait till the end of each department, or feel free just to jump in. Okay, so the 2025 Norwood water budget, we'll start with that one. Just a reminder that the Norwood water and Norwood wastewater are user-paid systems. This means that users of the system pay for the system, and the net impact to the tax base is $0. Our current billing for Norwood water and wastewater is 25% variable cost, 75% fixed cost model. This has been in place in the township since 2013 when the water meters were installed. Billing is bi-monthly. You will see monthly information provided in the presentations. So just a reminder that you'll need to multiply that by 2 to get the amount that you're going to see on each bill. Last time the budgets were constructed by the acting water and wastewater operations manager, Adam, CEO, Alan, so. So this slide is just an overview of the water system. The main components are 4 wells, 1 treatment facility, a disinfection system, chemical feed system for corrosion control, standby power, new standpipe, and distribution piping. The usage, we have a design capacity of 1,965 cubic meters per day with an average daily demand of 800 cubic meters per day. Currently, there are 1,100 water meters installed. Next slide. Unfunded capital, so unfunded capital projects are projects that have been paid for. But the cost of them has not yet come out of the township's accumulated surplus, thus leaving them unfunded. Sometimes it's difficult to kind of understand exactly what this is. The way that I would try to simplify it is think about we can't pay for water projects, wastewater projects with the tax levy. The users need to pay for the system, so way back when, 2005, a number of projects, which you see, I think on the next slide, that were deemed unfunded. Essentially, they were paid for, so we're not paying any interest on them or anything at this point. But there wasn't any water, wastewater funds essentially to pay for them. The 2025 budget includes roughly 64,000 in unfunded capital. 50,000 of that was per the financing plan endorsed by council on January 12, 2016. And this year we've added another 13,700 for the 2023-2024 standpipe project. My understanding from going back and watching some past council meetings was the intent of the standpipe funding was to be water reserves. The water reserve was fully depleted, primarily due to development revenues that we were forecasting the last few years that we didn't see. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars anticipated to move into the reserve that we didn't have.
Right.
To note, that number will likely go up for 2024 because it was water standpipe costs associated with 2024. We don't have the final numbers yet, but you can anticipate that will be. If we can build the reserve up enough, we're in a comfortable position. I could ask the auditors about potentially using some of the reserve money to pay this down. It is an internal loan, 0%, and it runs out to 2036. After 2025's contribution, the remaining unfunded balance will be 636,000. Slide. So this is just a list of the unfunded projects for the Ridge Street Waterwork and King Street Waterwork project from 2007 and 2009. The water meter upgrade in 2012, erosion control 2011, and water main replacement 2008, and then we've added standpipe for 2024. These are the total costs of the project, unfunded, not what's remaining for each project.
Right.
Slide right. Okay, this table compares the budgets for 2024 and 2025 and shows the revenue, operating expenses, and capital required to sustain the water system. Forecasted revenue for 2025 has decreased $206,000 from 2024 due to a decrease in anticipated connection fee revenue from development. As I mentioned, throughout the year, the water and wastewater budgets for 23 and 24 were significantly impacted by changes in the development schedule. We didn't see the development that we were anticipating, which meant we didn't get the money, the fees that we were expecting. Development didn't move forward at the rate the township had anticipated, resulting in significant revenue shortfalls in those years. Operating expenses have increased slightly in 2025, but not much, about $6,000. This is just a result of essentially chemical product cost increases and along with our insurance increases. Capital spending for water is down about $212,000. We don't have the standpipe project in 2025. All spending, correct, Adam, done, so we shouldn't see any charges hitting in 2025. That was a significant contributor in 2024 budget. I think it was 274,000-ish that you're seeing hitting the capital line for that project. To note, we've also included $175,000 transfer to the water reserve to help rebuild the water reserve account. The water reserve account was depleted due to previous year's revenue shortfalls and capital project spending. It is a user pay system, so the net cost for the system is zero. So again, just touching on some significant impacts, the connection fee revenue, which I mentioned. The next three items can speak to are just capital projects that the department has planned for 2025.
Mayor.
Yeah.
So the aquifer capacity and the permit to take water, that began in 2024. There's just a little bit of carryover into 2025. And in 2026, there will be, we will continue and finish that project in 2026. We just delayed it a year because of these other large capital projects. For a year. Our permit to take water is currently 1,965 cubic meters a day. And we would like to increase it to 3,000 meters a day to increase our for future development. And the water financial study is a regulatory requirement for all drinking water systems to have a financial plan, and ours expires in 2026. And for the Wellington Street water services, that is getting redone this year for Norwood Park subdivision phase 4. For your revised all replace water services, all the treatments will not include to houses.
To you, Mayor. The last one is just the standpipe project and the funds being moved to the unfunded capital line, which let's see for another year. So next slide, please. Okay, this table compares the 2024 and 2025 Norwood water rates. As you can see, the variable rate consumption, there's a 7% increase and a $2.76 increase in the monthly fixed rate. Next slide, please. This table shows the average monthly difference for users at different levels of water consumption. This is a table the township has used in the past. So you look at it's the second line down there, a family using an average 20 cubic meters of water will see about a $4.16 increase per month in water charges.
That's double though.
That,
We're bi-monthly billing.
yeah, so you have to double that.
Yeah.
460. Seniors using less water, 5 cubic meters per month, will see about $3.11 increase per month. That's all for the Norwood water budgets. Are there any questions at this time?
Imagine we have questions. I just want to say, the water treatment and wastewater. Adam, you have very little control of a lot of things in there. Your insurance, your chemicals, cost of supplies, everything has gone up. And I appreciate this report. It's fairly open for all the residents to see it. And now we'll start with questions. Deputy Member.
Thank you through you, Mayor. Thank you very much for the reports, both of you. I just a couple questions. The first one, the fixed and variable rates, are those ratios appropriate? Are they good? Do they need to be looked at? And second question, the water financial study. What's the ballpark figure on the cost of that going to be moved? So my two questions.
Okay, so the first question, the 25%, 75%, is something I guess we could look at. It's been used in the past. That's why we stuck with it, or why I stuck with it for this year. I know, I think HBM uses a flat rate. There are other models. As for if it's the best rate,
I'm just
Yeah.
curious, because since I've been sitting at this table, that's the way it's been, and I just didn't know what others do, so I just wasn't sure about that. So.
we looked into the consumption and others where they're rates and
Okay, that's not an answer for that yet.
And then the second question, the water financial study, any ballpark
Yeah,
as to the
sorry.
cost of that? No,
Through you, Mayor,
that's okay.
the water financial study costing is $30,000. Yes, we have received quotes from multiple
Okay, thank you.
vendors as well.
Councilor Ward?
Yes, thank you, through you, and thank you in advance for answering some of my questions that I sent to you earlier. There was one, and I just want you touched on it, because of the connection fees that we had anticipated that we haven't had for the development. So do you anticipate that these increases or pressures on the budget will continue for the next several years? Or I guess you don't have a crystal ball, but like unless building, starts up again, there still will be some pressures in the budget.
Through you, Mayor. I think so. A lot of it depends on capital spending. The operating expenses seem to be pretty consistent year over year. Any revenue that we don't get from other sources of revenue, like connection fees, is going to fall to the user, which is going to drive up
The rate.
the rates. So we hope to see development, the development moves forward. Like it was anticipated, we should see an abundance of revenue coming in, which will hopefully, steady those rates and reduce those increases. Adam, do you want to speak? We touched quickly on this yesterday when we met, but do you want to speak to the capital outlook of the water department for the next couple of years?
Yeah.
That will be ultimately what kind of decides the cost.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, it really depends on the use of funding as well. Like for it, as if that comes, that's gonna bring about more capital projects, but bring the development as well.
Right. Council Watt.
Thank you. If I may have a follow-up question, just on what Deputy Mayor Burt had asked about the water financial study. So do you have an anticipated timeline of when that will be completed now that the tenders have come in?
At this point, Councilor, it was more of an investigation. We haven't actually put it in for tender. It was more of an investigation to give us a ballpark of what we'd be looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hodge-Greaves.
Through you, so looking at the connection fees. Last year it was budgeted for $270,000 and only 10,000 was realized. Is there any coming on that's not been accounted for in the revenue for 2024?
Not that I'm aware of, not a significant number.
And then that extra, the 260 that didn't come this year, you are not gonna put it into your budget line. You don't think it's gonna show up?
Through you, Mayor, the forecast for 2025 was determined working with the building department and what they're hearing from developers to try to get an accurate estimate of what we're gonna see. I would love that number to be 270,000, a number of people, but
Right.
we wanted to get away from what's kind of happened last year and the year before, because it does significantly impact.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that report. I'll state the recommended motion that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts the following presentation for information.
Still has to do with wastewater, yeah.
Pardon me?
Wastewater is coming still.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, continue on with wastewater. I've read it and I'm just jumping ahead.
Okay, through you, Mayor, this is the 2025 presentation for the wastewater budget. Again, just another reminder, the users have to pay for the system. I'm sure we will get rates here shortly. Current billing again is 25% variable and 75% fixed cost, and it's been in place for the township since 2014. Next slide, please, Mel. Overview of the system. Main components, there are 3 pumping stations, Belmont, Maple, and Alma. There's a wastewater treatment plant, a sludge storage, chemical system, as well as a collection system. Usage, there's a design capacity of approximately 1,150 cubic meters. Average daily usage of 770 cubic meters. Next slide, please. So this table compares the budgets for 2024, 2025, and again shows the revenue, operating expenses, and capital required to sustain the wastewater system. 2025 revenue, you can see forecasted revenue has decreased about 51,000 from 2024. This is due to the decrease in anticipated hookup fee revenue from slow development schedule. Once again, the development did move forward at the rate that was anticipated. From an operating expenses standpoint, operating expenses have decreased slightly in 2024. This is primarily labor related. Now that we the acting manager and previous manager currently operating two staff. So there'll be a time to move forward. With that. Capital, we're seeing capital costs in 2025 have decreased by 45,000 from 2024. However, it's important to note here that there is a transfer in the wastewater budget of 225,000 from the wastewater reserve. Current reserve as of January 1st, 2024 was 515,000. What we're anticipating with a deficit in 2024 in the wastewater department is we should have $225,000 to commit to the reserve to help offset some of the high capital costs we're seeing in the 2025 budget. Another thing to note, and we'll touch on this in the next slide, is a big driver of the capital costing in 2025 is the Wellington Street and County Road for sewer upgrades tied to phase 4. The estimated costs in 2025 are $561,000. Next slide, please, Mel. So significant impact, as I mentioned, hookup fee revenue. Forecasted revenue from development and hookup fees in 2025 is significantly less, about $120,000 less than the budgeted hookup fee revenue in 2024. Again, if the cost to operate the department, the operating expenses for the wastewater department remains close to the same year over year, not factoring in capital projects. The loss of this revenue, the other revenue falls on the users, which drives the rates up. I'm going to pass to Adam again. He can speak to the next few capital projects for the wastewater department.
So we're on the street kind of 40 sewer upgrades are part of the phase 4 subdivision. That sewer main on County 40 is currently have capacity, so owners is built until that upgrade is complete. The lines part and forest main engineering, that is to design and tender the upgrades for the sewage pumping station and the forest main, as well as the wastewater treatment plant. The lines part pumping stations currently have 84% capacity, and the wastewater treatment is pretty close to capacity, especially since we've done support with the sewage collection system. There's a lot less infiltration, stronger sewage, lowers your capacity. Maple Pump Station, we have project. That station's old, and the pumps and valves and pipe work needs to be replaced. The pumps were purchased in 2024 to help with their gallon costs. Okay, and split between 2 years. And, the radio network upgrade is to replace communications between the pump stations and the water treatment plant. Radios are currently out of date, they're not replaceable. So we can let them end up places on the rigs.
And our lovely debenture, would you like to talk about that?
Through you, Mayor, yes, the debenture I'll mention, we'll get into that on the next slide. So obviously we have a debenture for $2 million. It was taken out in 2010 and it matures in June 15th, 2045. As of 2025, the balance is about $1.14 million. Their biannual principal and interest payments required each year. Payments in June and December. The principal payment is $28,571.32. Next slide. Okay, this table compares the 2024 and 2025 Norwood wastewater rates. As you can see, there's a 13-cent increase in the variable rate and $5.49 increase in the fixed rate. Next slide. This table shows the average monthly difference for users at different levels of water consumption. So similar to the water, if we look at a family on average using 20 cubic meters, they're going to see a increase of $8.09 Senior, we'll also see the decent size increase of $6.14 using 5 cubic meters. Next slide.
Sorry.
This table shows the impact on both systems. So you can see a family on average, it's going to see about a $12.25 increase per month.
Adam, this is a question more for you. In comparison to other municipalities around us, how close are our rates?
Yes, through the mayor, I looked at Trent Hills, Peterborough, and Millbrook for the water. Our variable rate being 5 cents, Trent Hills will be $1.40. $1.40. And Peterborough is $1.60, Millbrook is $1.91.
Okay,
Neighbors. And for sewer, we have Norwood, our variable rate would be $1.03. Trent Hills is $2.34. Millbrook is $2.61.
thank you. Like there's no much. That's a little more palatable.
Our fixed rates are also lower than everybody's except for Peterborough's on the water side. Trent Hill's fixed rate is only 7 cents more than ours. Millbrook's is $35 more than ours. For fixed rate, they're $68.33. There's fixed rate.
Right,
On the sewer side, our fixed rate is $42.61. Trent Hills is $55.70 and Millbrook is $126. Fixed rate.
is that from years of not raising the rates here? Okay. It's gotta be. Questions? No questions? Counselor Ward?
I just wanted to thank you for the thorough report and for the extra work of giving comparisons of other communities. I think it is important, and it's important just to track and make sure that we are on par because of these significant pressures that are going to be, like, we can't always depend on development to, spur and do growth. It's not sustainable, especially when you have, I guess, a recession in building is what I'm going to call it. And so I thank you for the comparisons of other communities. I never even thought of asking that, and I'm glad that you brought those figures with you. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you through you, Mayor. Okay, last presentation. Promise the 2025 Trenton States Water Systems budget. Trenton is a little bit different than our normal wastewater setup, so it is a user pay system, still meaning the users of the system have to pay entirely for the system, so the net impact tax base is zero. We purchased the water from the municipality of Trent Hills. So Trent Hills provides us with their 2025 rates for pipe services and water consumption and variable rate. Essentially, we get the water from them. We charge the users the same amount that the municipality of Trent Hills charges us. It comes in and goes out. Same thing for pipe services. We do have a fixed rate charge to users, right, to cover what's remaining for us to operate the system. Billing is bi-monthly again. Next slide, please. So the overview of the system, main components, there's a booster pumping station, there's standby power, distribution piping, meter chamber. Usage capacity of about 1,658 cubic meters per day, the average daily usage of 30 cubic meters, 86 properties. Used in services, 74 homes and 12 vacant lots. And again, we purchased the water from Trent Hills. Slide, please. So this table compares the budgets for 2024 and 2025 and shows the revenue, operating expenses, and capital required to sustain the system. So you see we start with operating expenses here. So the operating expenses have increased about $5,000 from 24 to 25. This is primarily due to water meter replacements, insurance costs. And a slight change in the allocation of labor from something we identified in the 2024 budget. It's really minimal. To offset those increased expenses, the revenue has to go up, which again falls on the users. So there is a $5,000 increase in revenue. For capital or no capital projects plans for Trendview. Next slide, please. So this table again compares the rates from 2024 to 2025. There's a 5-cent increase in the variable rate, $5.13 increase in the monthly fixed rate, and 39-cent increase in the pipe charge rate. So the 5 cents in the variable rate and 39 cents in the pipe charge rate, those were increases from Trent Hills. Next slide, please. This side here, table shows the average monthly difference for users at different levels of water consumption. So we get the median volume user here, say a family, if they're using 20 cubic meters, we'll see about a $6.52 increase in their bill. Questions?
Any questions, Deputy Mayor Burke?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you again for the presentation. This question more for you, Adam. I remember a number of years ago, there seemed to be a lot of water breaks in that area. You may have been on the roads then. I don't know if you were with water. And I think at that point, there was an anticipation that, oh, all of that's going to need to be replaced at some point, that the pipes were getting old, that sort of thing. How, have you had many breaks there? Have things been looking okay? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, here, the town is in really good shape for water mains now. I don't even want to say the word, but we haven't had any jinx of.
Don't jinx, don't jinx.
2024
Yeah.
because of.
No, and that more for the water in Trent Hills,
Oh,
in
sure.
that part, yeah. Yeah, I just remember a number of years ago, there were a lot of breaks in
Oh,
there,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yes, this would be probably 10, 12 years ago.
Oh, it's that long. I didn't think it was that long ago.
All of the water services on our side have been replaced with a better class.
Oh, okay, okay.
Connections. So,
Okay, so all of them were done.
yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So, okay, thank you very much.
I think a few extra valves were added at that time too. Councillor Hodge-Greaves.
Just through you, Mayor, probably for Adam, just on the usage, it says average daily usage is 30 cubic meters, but the capacity is like 1,600. Is it being used for other houses that aren't ours? That seems like a huge I'm just curious.
Yes.
Why?
I am not really sure why that is.
But that's what it is. It's not a typo.
No.
Okay.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you through you, Mayor. Again, we have very little control because the rates are set by
Trent
Trent
Hills.
Hills. I just wanted to ask a question, and I know that we've talked about it before. On the water agreement with Trent Hills, is it done on a yearly basis, or is there any chance that we can secure in an agreement for 5 years? Or I know that they obviously set the increases, but is there any benefit of doing something that's a longer agreement? If it's not yearly, sorry.
Yeah, through there, I haven't seen that agreement, but it won't look like.
Through you, Mayor, since my understanding from discussing with Trent Hills is their budget indicates the rates they're gonna charge for these services for their users, and then they pass them on to us.
Pass them on to us.
We could attempt to enter into a multi-year agreement, but I have a feeling
I don't
they
think
won't
they
know
do
what
it.
their rates potentially need to be, so I definitely would.
They're looking to cover the costs.
Yeah.
That's 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the end of the report. We'll try this one more time. I'll read the recommended motion that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts the following presentations for information: the 2025 water budget, the 2025 wastewater budget, and the 2025 Trent View Estates budget. And further, that the council adopts the 2025 Norwood Water, the 2025 Norwood wastewater and 2025 Trent View Estates distribution budgets as presented, and further the council directs staff to present the collaborating rate by laws during bylaw portion of today's meeting. And I have a mover of that motion, please. Deputy Mayor Burt, seconder, Councillor Ward, all in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you, Jordan. Adam. Time is at 1:45. Okay, we'll move along with R9, Ed Whitmore. Consult application.
Since the consent, consent application. B 97-24. Down on River Road, we have a farm parcel that abuts River Road and the 6th line.
Yes.
This lot and the next lot that we'll speak to. It's on the rural zone portion of the property. So the rural properties are permitted to have 2 severances. They haven't had any severances. So these 2 lots are permitted. The 2 lots are, this lot is about a 1 acre, or no, 2 acres in size. And it fronts on River Road. It complies with the official plan and provincial policy statement. The Greater Golden Horseshoe plan doesn't exist anymore. It complies with the MDS requirements for setbacks. And it'll turn out to be a very nice spot. It's fairly flat there. And I've had our roads manager go by earlier and look at the entrances to see if entrances could be granted there. And he said the sight lines are good, that there should be no issues with future driveways. So everything looks good as far as the consent application goes. They will be required to be rezoned if passed at the county level to rural residential. Right now it's rural, so these will end up being rural residential lots, so. That'll be pretty much our only request is for them to rezone it appropriately.
All right. Any questions, Counselor of F? No? All right. The recommended motion is that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information. And further, that the council recommends consent application B 97-24 for Crowley Lot 1. And further, the council directs staff to submit a municipal appraisal form to Peterborough County Land Division. Mover, Deputy Mayor Burt, seconder, Councillor Ward. There was no questions, all in favor? Motion is carried. Ed, if you'd like to move on to R10.
Hey, through you, Mayor, this consent application B 98-24 is the lot number 2. It's right beside lot number 1. It's identical. The parcel of land is rural. It's permitted the severance. It will be required to be rezoned, same as the previous severance we just talked about. It complies with the official plan policies, the local components of the official plan, and the provincial policy statement 2024. Since it complies with all the rules and rights, I recommended that it be approved, subject to being rezoning to the satisfaction of the township. Again, the roads manager has confirmed an entrance would not be a problem. The sight lines are good. It's fairly flat there. Again, it'll be a really nice lot.
Any questions? All right, council, I'll read the second recommended motion that the council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information, and further the council recommends consent application B 24 for Crowley Lot 2, and further the council direct staff to submit the municipal appraisal form to Peterborough County Land Division.
Recorded vote, please.
Okay, moved by Councillor Wars, a recorded vote. Do you move the motion to?
Yes, I'll make the motion.
Make the motion, Deputy Mayor Byrd will second it. And report it.
Councillor Ward,
Yes.
Mayor Belford,
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Byrd,
Yes.
Councillor Hodgegreaves.
No.
Motion is carried.
thank you, Ed. We'll move on to R11, we still have 10 minutes. Do you want to move into the management action list? We should be able to get through that. Okay, Alan, I'll let you pursue.
Through you, Mayor, this is one of the regular items we've done, the last couple of meetings. How many meetings we had at the end of the year? Well, this is now the first of this one, so we've got a whole bunch of the rest of the year. So for the next 2 meetings, there'll be a lot of things that we have to get cleaned up, annual reports and a few different pieces like that. The one exciting news I have for you is at our next meeting, the new fire truck will coming by. It's very cheap. And we will have the opportunity to take possession of the truck. The work is being done on the truck. It will be in operations fairly soon.
Radios going in today, shopping tomorrow, lettering by another week.
Radio today, shelving tomorrow, lettering by the end of the week.
Yeah.
So we will bring it by and everybody will have the chance to see just what we spent all the money on and what it's gonna do for us. And that will be for the next meeting. And we are at our management meeting tomorrow, be going through for some of our outstanding items for 2025. Just working on attaching some dates and quarters and everything like that, so that when you see the list next time, it will have that piece of work done to it.
Right.
Unless there's any questions, I think that's pretty much everything I have.
Okay, any questions of Alan? All right, thank you, Alan. Can I have a motion that council accepts this report with the revisions suggested by staff and council? Moved by Councillor Ward, second by Councillor Hodgegreaves, all in favor? Motion is carried. We can start moving through some of this correspondence for action. On to correspondence for action, C11, Town of Deep River, what's council's wishes? Deputy Mayor Byrd? Support, motion to support. Councillor War, all in favor? Motion is carried. Township of Terrace Bay, ambulance shortages and healthcare system issues. What's council's pleasure with that?
Support.
Motion of support from Councillor War, seconder from Councillor Hodgegreaves. Any questions? All in favor? Motion's carried. City of Guelph, resolution to enable municipalities to charge fees for municipal property by gas utilities. What's council's? Councillor Ward? Motion to receive? Seconder? Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Burt? All in favor? Motion is carried. We still got some time. Council liaison reports. Does anyone would like to bring anything forward? Deputy Mayor Burt?
Thank you through you. Just, note, we had our library board meeting, first one of 2025 last night. 2 new board members came on, and so that's exciting. They're looking forward for the next couple of years, and we reviewed our second round of the draft budget. And thank you to Jordan and Trish, and it was approved, so hopefully everything will come through council in our February meeting, so that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Ward?
Thank you. Ward. Thank you. Through you.
Councillor Ward?
Yeah, that we have our first cultural and heritage meeting this coming Saturday at 9:30 a.m. in Westwood. And that'll be our first one. We have lots to talk about because we were the recipients of a $9,800 grant. And so that's for our Peter Robinson bicentennial celebrations. So that will stretch our budget for this year, and we have some great events planned.
I see that on your calendar. Councillor Hodgegreaves?
I attended the first meeting of the newly appointed Special Events Committee last week. The main item on the agenda was planning for the Family Day event, which is today. It will follow similar format to last year, having horse rides, but a short route, but have activities at both Or no, there will be, they will be at both locations, the town hall and the community center areas. So that is on there.
All right, we'll take a short recess, I think, before we start with our public meeting at 2:00. Motion to, Councillor Ward, second by Deputy Mayor Burt. All in favor? Motion's carried. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to state the time at 2 p.m. Council will enter into a public meeting to consider two applications to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2009-08. I'll ask if any councillors have any pecuniary interests. Seeing no hands, I'll begin and ask sorry, I just asked councillors if they had any pecuniary interests or declaration of pecuniary interest, and I see no hands. And I'll now move along to approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda for the public meeting? Deputy Mayor Burt, Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? Motion's carried. An overview of the proposed application for the zoning amendment. I'll turn it over to our chief building official, Ed Whitmore.
Thank you, through you, mayors. Okay, so the quick overview for this HBNG Phase 1 zoning bylaw amendment 03-2024. This zoning amendment is going to add provisions for a Phase 1 subdivision, future subdivision, and it's going to include 158 residential units. 12 of those would be townhouses, 2 blocks. It'll be serviced with municipal water and sanitary sewers and storm sewers. So I'll get right into the report and give you some background. So back in the day, Asphodel-Norwood Limited, they started this whole project out, these lands, by amending the official plan to permit the future residential development. The intensification was pretty thick. It was about 643 units for our condominium development, which meant that it was private. There would have been one township road in the middle of the south property, south on Mill Street. And other than that, everything else would be private lanes. County Peterborough official plan amendment was approved by the county back, the OPA was number 35. It was adopted by the county with their bylaw in 2021. That was August 4th, 2021. And so that official plan amendment, it redesignated the lands from rural to and recreational open space to residential. And so that was needed in order to do the condominium development or to do any residential development. That was their step 1. So after that, Asphodel-Norwood Limited, they applied and amended the Township of Asphodel-Norwood zoning bylaw to permit a condominium mix of housing. So they had several different size of lots and blocks of land approved for condominiums. Again, the density was quite thick, and that was zoning bylaw was approved June 22nd, 2021. And so that took several years to happen in order to go through the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment. There was all kinds of environmental impact studies done, noise, traffic impact studies. There was functional servicing reports done. Probably at least 8 to 10 different studies were done for the CP rail noise, for the rail line there. all kinds of things. They had a open house meeting here in Norwood. And, then they had the required planning act, public meetings. So that was all approved. Then they sold the property. And so new owners, HBNG Norwood Development Inc. They are proposing a zoning change. Which is, in my mind, I'm not against condominium developments, but a subdivision approval is a much better. Fit for Norwood. Because it's, the lots, the way they've reconfigured the lots. They're varying in size. They have, two little blocks of, townhouses. And the backyards in the condominium development all faced pretty much, Mill Street. Which meant that the residents across the road on Mill Street would be looking in everybody's backyard, and most people put their stuff in their backyard, not in their front yard. They try to keep their front yard a little bit nicer than the backyard. And so, I'm sure the new configuration looks a lot better, and it will be a lot better. And the new configuration will be proper municipal roads, full urbanized sidewalks and curbs and street lighting and municipal water, sewer. It won't be a private development, private lands development. So to me, it's much better when we can have the township issue the permits and do the inspections and do the bylaw control for somebody's parking in the winter time in the wrong spot type of thing, compared to receiving all the bylaw complaints that you would get. And it's private property. You know, our roads will all be
Ours.
in a 20 meter, like 66-foot road allowance compared to like a 20-foot road allowance type of thing. So garbage pickup won't be private, it'll be regular garbage pickup. You know, it'll be good for the fire trucks and fire equipment and the school buses and anything and everything. If they do have any of that stuff going through there, it'll just be a regular municipal road, township road like Queen Street or any other street or any other new development. So this zoning, it not only changes the former zone for phase one from condominium residential to just normal subdivision residential. So that's, to me, that's the best part of this whole development, is that it's a subdivision. And so this is at about step 3 of a 10-step process. So this is not the subdivision is not approved. They still have to go through draft plan conditions. They have to go through pre-development agreements, off-site agreements, the subdivision agreement. There's going to be several more meetings. There's going to be municipal infrastructure work that's required. There's going to be securities posted. So whatever, if it's $1 million or 2 million or however many dollars it is to put in the water and sewer and storm, we'll collect money. It gets reimbursed to them after it's been installed. And so depending on whether it's a pre-servicing agreement or whether it's in the subdivision agreement, we're pretty safe proceeding in this manner, the way that it's laid out. It's a very good layout, as in there will be smaller units and there'll be larger, regular 50-foot wide lots, just like anywhere else in Norwood, and then there's smaller lots too. So I think the variety of housing and the townhouses is a great fix. And it's going to be really good for Norwood. But again, this may be years down the road, because we need a lot of infrastructure work for the sanitary sewer and for the water. And so even though we're passing the zoning today, we're passing the zoning today that has an H on it. So the only permitted uses are what's existing today until we remove the holding, which is the H provision. So it can continue to be farmed until we remove the H. And we're not removing the H until we go through all the other agreements and everything is approved and the infrastructure has been completed up 45 forced main to the sewage treatment plant, the water permit to take additional water, all those things have been completed. So I'm just saying we're at about step 3 of a 10-step process, and it will be down the road. But this is, in my mind, this is a really good development, phase 1. From what I'm used to. Like we've had other developments in Norwood, DPH 1, 2, and 3, and now we're proposing a DPH 4. Out of all of those homes that have been built, I've yet to receive a single complaint from one of those homeowners about their home.
Right.
Not one complaint, and I think that's unheard of. That shows that we do a good job in our planning and we do a good job with the infrastructure. And the permit process, I guess, as well. Anyways, the zoning bylaw amendment application was attached for everybody to see, and the notice of complete application. We posted on site, we posted on our township website. We did a mailing. And we also attached the draft plan, more or less. It's like a survey of the lot layout and the road layout and the storm pond layout. There's requirements for us to read the appeal notice if it's passed and anybody would like to appeal it. So I'll read those in a sec. Peterborough County Engineering, they don't have any objections. Now, of course, they will have conditions when we bring forward draft plan approval conditions later. And in the other agreements, all the other agencies are going to have their conditions listed. So the school boards are going to have their conditions listed. The Autonomy Region Conservation Authority, they're going to have their conditions listed. MTO, Enbridge Gas, they will all have their own conditions listed. So there will be a lot of discussion, and everything has to be, even though the County of Peterborough is the planning authority for all subdivisions and for these Planning Act applications, everything has to be done to the satisfaction of Asphodel-Norwood.
Right.
So the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, the storms, the curbs, the sidewalks, street lighting, the other agent like communications and gas and everything else. Everything has to be done to the satisfaction of the township. We do peer review. The County of Peterborough does peer review and Orca does peer review. So, and it's engineered to start with from the proponent. So not only is it engineered, it's engineered and tweaked according to that agency and that agency and that agency. And they have to meet township engineering as well. Everything is put back to the satisfaction of the township of Asphodel-Norwood. And so that we'll end up with a good layout, a good system, without flooding, without causing damage to somebody downstream. Everything has to be approved. And all those conditions and those engineered details will all be laid out in subsequent agreements. And the H, make sure that they do not do anything except do what they're doing today until they comply with township requirements. And so I'll read those appeal clauses if they're on here. Okay, so
Before you read that, Ed, would you like me to ask if there's any persons here in attendance to speak in support or opposition of this application?
sure.
Sir?
No. Your stand. There, yes. Good afternoon. My name is David Mackay. I'm a registered professional planner with MHPC. I represent the applicant.
Right.
As Ed has gone through, this is was a rethink by a new owner, for, residential development of these lands that was approved previously by, the county and the township. As, Ed mentioned, the main difference is that instead of a condominium proposal, condominium roads, it's now a public road system,
Yes.
with each lot, having individual title fronting onto a public road. So through that, my new client, because I was involved with the previous approvals, decided to proceed with that based on their market research and what they're used to. And so they've revised the scheme. It has resulted in a net reduction of units, for this area of the land. There is still further phases that will be coming forward in the future, which will have to go through the same process. We'll need to rezone those with a redesigned subdivision, to reflect the new thinking on the road network. So overall, it will be a reduction in the amount of units, but still providing for a mix of housing. The townhouses, smaller single detached dwellings as well as larger ones. The larger units are on the west side, adjacent to the existing residential homes.
Right.
So we're talking 55 total plus units in that location in terms of their frontages, with the smaller units internal to the site and further to further away from the existing residential. So there was that degree of compatibility that we've incorporated into the proposal, and I'm happy to answer any questions that council or members of the public may. And as I mentioned, as Ed had mentioned, we've still got a lot of process to finish off with the county and the town, just to get the approval conditions, and then finishing up all the detailed engineering works before actual development pursuit. There's still a little bit of time.
Right. Council, any questions? Deputy Mayor Bird?
Thank you through you, Mayor, and more comments than questions at this point. Thank you for explaining that age provision. I had circled that because I think that's important that everyone knows and understands that age provision in the report. That is important. Nothing can be done until that age provision comes off. And then a comment on the housing variety. Thank you for somebody finally bringing that to Norwood. We need that. You know, as people downsize and want smaller homes, it's important. We don't really have that. As younger people are trying to get into the market, they can't get a mortgage over $500,000 or $600,000, and we need those smaller units. And I think that's important to keep that, you know, keep our family units in our community. So I just wanted to comment on that. I remember I believe my first term and things were going on with Peterborough Homes, and I had mentioned that, and I pretty much got booed out of the room for mentioning, you know, detached or undetached homes, or what do you call those? Semi-detached homes. That nobody wanted those. So anyway, I'm glad to see it. I think it is needed. So that's just a comment. Don't have any questions just yet. Thank you.
Just a comment from myself too is, I do like getting out of that private road that's only 20 feet wide to our standards of roads in there. That's a big plus, because I know the township would be the one that would be getting the phone calls from that privately owned road all the time. At least this way, it's turning it back over to the town. Another thing, I'd like to thank you and your building committee, Ed. I've heard from other people in the municipality how you walk them through these steps, and it's a lot easier when you do help them out to do that. We're trying to be proactive in our building and the process in the village. Councillor Ward, you had a question? Or-
Yes, thank you through you, a comment and a question, and thank you again, you did answer quite a few of the questions earlier. I really like the redesign, I think having those homes face Mill Street instead of the backyards, it really will make that a really nice street when it's completed. The diversity in housing, I agree, two really good things that are needed in Norwood. And that it's step 3 of 10, so there's still quite a process. I was just wondering about traffic study reports and if there had been some done prior to this with the other application.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, there was previous traffic impact studies done with the original one. May have been as far back as 2016 or somewhere around there. And then since then, there's been updated traffic impact studies completed, peer reviewed by the county and by the township. I don't know the exact date on the most recent one, but it's not that old. It's fairly current.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor. So that's right. There was a lot of work done previously over a number of years dealing with the MTO and the township and the county. With the redesign, we went back and updated those reports for the phase 1. That was then submitted to the county and the township for peer review. And that was April of this year, sorry, 2024, with a further comments received in the fall and then an update provided to the county and the township in December and peer reviewed again. So all the findings were that everything will work. There will be upgrades required as part of the overall development to Mill Street, for example, and whatnot. But those are all part and parcel of the further process down the road in terms of draft plan conditions.
Thank you.
Councillor Hodgkrees?
Thank you through you, Mayor. I know it's very early stages, but it's not immediately obvious if there are sidewalks included in this development, and sometimes they do get forgotten in developments, and I was just wondering if there will be sidewalks.
There will be.
It seems small question, but
Yeah, with the 20-meter right of way, it's standard municipal.
It's standard.
For all, so we'll include the proper boulevard treatment and sidewalks and whatnot as part of the development.
thank you.
With respect to the traffic impact study, with the discussions with our public works manager, Mill Street, and I'm pretty sure the 10th line, they're considered to be half loads. They're not, you know, they post signs in the spring saying half loads or a certain weight is only permitted. So we need upgrades on the portion that will be not turned, we have to turn it into not a half load type of road. So that if there are concrete trucks coming down, they're not gonna beat our roads up or anybody beat it up with construction trucks and all that, and then the township has to pay those tax, out of tax dollars to repair the roads and everything, so there will be requirements to bring Mill Street up to like a full urban road, just like King Street or any of the other township streets in the subdivisions that are fully paved, full curbs, storm sewers, street lighting, sidewalks down Mill Street to connect. There's gonna be a connectivity to the high school community center property through that portion as well, so that you don't have all the, if kids are from that subdivision or walking to school or whatever, they just cut right through the part that's designated for them to actually walk through there. You'd probably have like a little paved, asphalted, fenced walkway so that they can connect through there. We'll also probably connect do a water connection loop so that if they're working on infrastructure in one part of this, you don't shut off the valve here and then everybody has no water. So if it's looped, you can shut off and isolate a certain section. And it still gets fed water and you only affect that immediate area where there's a repair being done. So. This is a long ways off. It's gonna be a really nice development when it's completed. And I look forward to it really, to it happening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, no matter what the questions. Whether it's a small question or a hard question, ask them.
You've got a couple questions right now, Ed.
Yes, hi, Ron Dunn. I just actually purchased a home in the neighborhood on Green Street. My question is around the capacity coming out of that new development onto Mill Street. Now, if I understand, you said you would be expanding. Has it yet been decided how many exits will be onto Mill Street? Is there anything going to be done with regards to the bridge opening? Because I'm just imagining all that traffic coming out onto Mill Street and then going either east or west.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I've had discussions with our roads manager. And more than likely, what we're proposing, Mill Street, where it comes out onto Highway 7, is a terrible intersection. It's existed for decades and decades. We're not gonna make it any worse. So if we make it one way coming from Highway 7 to Queen Street, only from Highway 7 this way, you can't exit out highway that road. That's gonna stop all potential future.
But would that not force that
Intersection.
traffic down Queen and King though?
Well, the main routes probably will either be King Street or Queen Street or both. So it will be, I don't know if Legion Street will ever get extended, probably not, but. There's those options, and if you're heading east, you'll either go out Mill Street to
10th line.
the 10th line and go down 42 towards Havelock Way, or you go down Highway 7 towards Havelock
Yeah, there's
Way.
not many exits out of
No.
that subdivision, right?
And so from the subdivision coming out onto Mill Street, for that part of the question, I think there's only one road coming out of phase 1. There's an internal network of roads, but there's only one road coming out onto Mill Street. So there's not gonna be any driveways or any roads and stuff. Other than the one municipal road, that's what I remember.
There's one lot, that is.
Oh,
kind of a
there's-
remnant piece
yeah.
that's next
Yeah.
to existing home, that will have one driveway access, but other than that, all the other driveways are fed internally through the subdivision. There is just the one access for the space.
So there is risk.
So
that
right
Queen-
adjacent to 67 Mill Street. There's one lot proposed there that's 19 meters of frontage for a single detached home. So that's the only driveway that's going to be on Mill Street, other than the proposed road. So it'll be a proper intersection, with sight lines and all the rest.
No, I was just wondering, based on that section, that phase, and as other phases, where are all those residents exiting, and was there thought to giving more than Mill Street being like other exits out onto 10th, or I don't even know, all the way through, I don't down.
Through you, Mayor?
Yes,
So the proponent, the owner, HBNG, so they not only own these lands, they own lands. It used to be called the Menzies property, and it was the Payne Farm prior to that. They own right to County Road 42. So the further development that goes in that direction, I can see additional, possibly a road going out onto the 10th and possibly connecting into Elma Street, like through that way, or connecting onto 42 as well. But the way that it is right now, they'll just use the this 158 units. They'll just use the existing roads that we have in town, and Mill Street will be upgraded. And we'll probably put in a construction route so that the heavy equipment and stuff, they're not supposed to use the 10th line until we do upgrades, because we don't want any of the roads being affected. And hopefully we think of everything as we go. We went through, Norwood Park, DPH phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. I remember probably less than 10 years ago, they were closing the high school.
Mhm.
The minor sports was just terrible, like, not in that the participants weren't good, the numbers were terrible, right? Like hockey, figure skating, and all those things were way down. So this housing really helps. It just snowballs right through the whole township as a whole. It helps support the stores, helps support the restaurants, it helps supports the gas stations. Anything and everything. It keeps our high school here, it keeps the bank here, it keeps everything here.
Well, yeah,
So,
well, thank you. I have no objections to
No,
the
I know,
expansion.
but
It's just keeping that sort of small town mentality without overcrowding.
right,
Tracy, you had a question?
Yes. So when this becomes township instead of private, whatever, so they'll be using the same garbage pickup as that.
yes.
Yes.
Our garbage pickup right now is lacking. You can't add another 300 houses. Our garbage won't get picked up till 8 o'clock at night. We put it out at 7 in the morning. We're lucky if it's picked up by 4 in the afternoon and it's blown down the Mill Street and made that disgusting. The only thing that we have going right now that's great are the township snow removal. That's on par. I don't know if they'll be able to keep up and maintain that. If you go and add all these houses in there that require the same thing. As far as the bylaw, we must be more bylaw officers to control the parking and stuff because we're not doing that now either. We've added on to the nursing home on Elm Street. There's cars parked along there constantly. And it's very difficult and challenging when you have to pass around and your parking lot is empty. But there's staff or whoever's parking on the street. There's no bylaw following up on that. So when we have all this overcrowding on Mill Street and King Street and all of that, where the kids in town do walk to school, like that's gonna cause a lot of, if we don't start enforcing the things we have in place now, and you go and add that many more dwellings. And I believe Poetry Living is the developer, and I don't think you're gonna get the affordable housing you think you're gonna get.
CAOL.
Through you, Mayor. First of all, on snow fine, we're actually way better than any of the other.
Full credit for that, full credit for that.
Garbage piece, yeah. When you add these homes, tax bases go up, tax base go up, more tax come in, we can do some things with it. So that's kind of, the growth pays for the growth is the idea behind it. If we get complaints.
I don't think it makes Terra any better though. Like,
Well, that's a contract we have with the county through us,
Right.
but the more they're picking up, the more influence we can have with them to say this is what we expect from them. The contract becomes that much more appealing to other companies as well. There's more of it. On the bylaw side, if we get complaints, we follow up on them. So if you're seeing something like that, let us know. We follow up.
Just that you did mention the nursing home. Ed, have you had complaints about the parking up in the nursing home yet?
No, during construction, I had the complaint, but again, that section, I'm pretty sure that road doesn't prohibit parking. I think it, except during the fair, maybe. I could be wrong, but you know how they flip the signs down during the fair and the backside of the sign says no parking or something like that.
but there's no real shoulder there, so they're actually in a live lane of traffic.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a nice municipal road in a new subdivision, but again, upgrades may be required if they develop at that end of the
Development.
of the property. So if they're not exiting out onto there, we're not having them fix up a road like Baker Street or somewhere else that they're not actually affecting. They're only affecting will be Mill Street, possibly the 10th line, the existing roads are already done to an urban standard and they're full loads. Year-round roads type of thing. There will be sidewalks, 100%. We do a 1.8 meter wide sidewalk, which is probably wider than anybody else or equal to the widest sidewalk that there is out there. Our existing sidewalks, a lot of them are quite small, but recognizing the demographics of the population and everybody, a lot of people have these little scooters and stuff. You need bigger sidewalks. And when they're doing snow plowing and some of the snow gets pushed up onto the sidewalk, if you have a 1.8 meter wide sidewalk compared to a 3 or 4, 1 meter wide sidewalk, it's a lot better. So it is. So we are trying to think of everything, even things like fences and stuff along adjacent residential properties. We will want them to put up a 2 meter high board fence for privacy. So as part of the development, but that's in an agreement later on down the road. So we will try to think of anything and everything. And but by law, we have a limited amount of staff in Norwood that does a combination of bylaw, building and planning. And if we hired 6 more people, I think we could do a better job in bylaw, but your taxes would shoot up. And we don't want to try to build an empire of employees. We try to do the best that we can do in a timely manner. So we do, and there's only so much that we can do, and there's only so many hours in a day, and we do our best at what we do.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm clear, my understanding is this new subdivision, the homes will front onto Mill Street, is that correct?
No, they back onto each other adjacent to Mill Street, and there's also a roadway in between Mill Street and these houses. There is a layout.
Okay. So
I don't know if you have that layout available, probably
You
not.
don't have it?
so we're seeing 2 side properties.
Yeah, so there won't be any houses facing it or rear yards facing it. There'll be side yards. And it's set over quite a bit away from Mill Street. So we not only did a road widening that was a forced road identified a number of years ago. And so we've done a road widening to increase it to 66 feet, like a 20 meter road allowance. Where the owner owns those lands, we've done that already. And then the layout of this subdivision, they have internal roads that run parallel to the lot line along Mill Street, except where it exits out. And then there's one single lot that is adjacent to 67 Mill Street, that house, that will have a frontage directly, and the front will face, soon face Mill Street.
So Mill Street won't necessarily need to be widened then. Is that what you're saying?
Mill Street will be fully redone eventually.
And there'll be a sidewalk on,
Mill Street.
but on the side of these homes, I'm just concerned about our frontages. On our side, because some of those frontages aren't necessarily consistent with some older homes there.
Excuse me, through you, Mayor.
Yes.
The sidewalks will be to the satisfaction of the township of Asphodel-Norwood. So we hear that you would prefer them to be on the south side compared to on the north side. We would have it laid out so that it's on the south side, along the adjacent property, along the owner's property now. So if that makes most sense, there's only one house there. And that would be 67 Mill Street, that would be affected with a sidewalk going across the front of the property. There's several homes on the north side, if you want to call it the north side. So then that would affect everybody's driveway, so it's a lot better for the proponent and for the township to stay away from all those existing driveways, right?
Other question? Go ahead.
And where's the exits? Is there anything moving on to 10 at this point? Or
No.
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 Three.
I'm sorry, I should have asked your names when you were speaking, because our recording, person here would like them. Could you please give your names and ask the questions? Tracy,
Melanie Ronsetti.
pardon me?
Melanie Ronsetti.
Thank you.
You don't.
Ron Dunn.
Yes, you said first, thank you.
If anybody would like a copy of something, I'm available to print it off and give a copy this afternoon or anytime somebody wants to drop by the office for a copy of the plan, the layout, or for additional questions at any time as well.
Tom?
So Road C is the only exit onto Mill Street.
For this phase.
For this phase.
There will be a future phase to closer to the 10th line, which will have second exit. Which we designed for in terms of the spacing and for traffic. So but that's a future phase.
Each phase will go through.
And I was about to say, each phase will go through a similar review process probably for the subdivision as well. As
The only thing I see hazardous about doing that with one exit is that if there was a fire, say, worst case scenario on that street C, how is anybody ever going to get out of there? Go anywhere?
Well, it is a 20-meter right of way, so it's a full street. So if there is fire trucks or emergency vehicles, we'll obviously allow for movement to occur in an emergency to continue to occur. So,
You only shut the road right off.
but it's, yeah, it's similar to any other subdivision in town.
No.
I just think it's a hazardous thing to do to only have one exit and entrance into something. If we have that book going on now on Bird Street, all the way down in that subdivision, it's pharmacy and that stuff. We got one way in and one way out
Right.
till they build the addition down past Chris Clinton's house.
And through you, Mayor, for this one here, phase 2. The road network will continue on through, and then there'll be a second exit there. And also, down at, the new medical center, Birch, Spruce Street. It will probably within less than 5 years, the road will go down to Industrial Drive. And then there'll be that second way to get out down there. We already own that road allowance for that to happen.
Glenn? Or
Just for information. So the phase 1 drainage is being addressed. So are you addressing possibilities of drainage issues for phase 2 at this time to go through there too? So are you sizing as appropriately or?
Yes, so they've looked at overall, it's a general, but the detailed design will come forward through the subdivision registration. But they have accounted for existing condition on phase 2. And if they need to upgrade, as you get towards that portion of the site, it starts to fall down towards 42 and whatnot. So there's some different kind of drainage pattern that occurs. So there will be some portion of phase 2 going towards the storm pond, which is being designed to accommodate for this phase and a portion of phase 2 without storm ponds later on. Yeah, the drainage for the rest of it.
Actually taking it up to 42.
That's, yeah. That,
Elaine?
Scott, is this just a silly question? Is this the property that we're seeing advertised as Trent Meadows?
yes, that's the name of it.
Okay, so 2 questions. We're advertising already and this is years down the road.
Well, there is, our client needs to get interest in the project, and so they have started it as part of their overall corporate profile in terms of locations that they're going to be developing it. So it is part of that process. They can't do any sales until the subdivision is registered.
Second question, where on earth did you get the name Trent?
I didn't come up with it. It was.
We have nothing to do with Trent.
Yeah.
We are far removed from Trent.
I can take it back to my client I'll pass that on. I did not. I wasn't involved with those decisions.
Well, it's very misleading because the trend is all. With the Trent University and the Trent, we're just not, it's not.
Yeah, like fourth of eight.
Yeah. Lindsay Trent.
Lindsay.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Okay, Ed, I'll let you read the right to appeal.
Okay, so if a specified person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the township of Asphodel-Norwood before the bylaws passed, person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the township of Asphodel-Norwood to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And if a specified person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the township of Asphodel-Norwood before the bylaws passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. And if you wish to be notified of the decision of this application or any other application, you must make a written request to the township of Asphodel-Norwood at the address noted below. Quote, appropriate file number ZBLA 03 2024 is this file that we're speaking of today. And again, if anybody wishes any extra information, I'm more than happy to be able to supply that. And if there's any questions that anybody forgot to ask, between now and the next year or two, as the questions are thought of, please submit them to us. We can put them down so that when we're doing the various agreements, it's in our agreements to nail it down and make sure that everybody, as much as possible, everybody is happy.
Very good. Go ahead.
When they go to do Mill Street. Development, will there be new water and sewer and gas pipes put in at that time?
Sure, you could. I assume they'll do whatever infrastructure is required on Mill Street. There is no sanitary, to my knowledge, past King Street.
Right.
So all sanitary, all storms will be brand spanking new. As far as the water, I'm not sure if they have a 6-inch that runs up there. The standard normally in town is an 8-inch water main.
Just 6.
And so it's quite possible that it'll be upgraded to an 8-inch water main. I'm not 100% sure, and that's part of the engineering designs. So they would say how much water consumption, it needs a pipe this big type of thing.
Natural gas.
Natural gas, it'll be, to my knowledge, fully supplied with natural gas, electricity, communications, full urban.
And would we be obliged to go on the sewer or keep a septic?
What was that?
Would we be obliged to go with the sewers or can we keep it septic?
I would imagine you'd be able to keep a septic for a short period of time, but that'll be it. It's just,
Usually it's 5 years.
it's usually 5 years after the main has gone by and then you have to hook up within that 5 years.
Or be built.
Yeah, you're gonna be built.
Get that
So if you're
flat
gonna be
rate
built,
bill
you
of
might as well,
whatever it is that the township people pay right now.
right? And some of the septics there now are how many years old? With that, you're gonna have to replace, chances are, there's a lot of them in the county now that are replacing them because they're not up to standard. Of what today's standard is. So in saying that, if a sewage line is going by your place, I'd be hooking up to it in a heartbeat.
How much land was taken off the development plan on the south side?
For the road.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. So from the existing Mill Street, it would have been 30, should have been, and I'm pretty 99.99% sure it would be 33 feet from the center line of the existing road. All along the frontage on the south side of Mill Street, except for 67 Mill Street, that one house. We did that property when that severance was created. We did the road widening there. So that whole street, 33 feet from center line of the existing road south onto that property was already done with the Crowley, Norwood Development Limited, Crowley Farms, Norwood Limited. And on the property on the north side, from, I think it's 112 Mill Street beyond to the 10th line, 33 feet from there on the north side. From the center line of the existing road. That was done as well.
You got another question?
No, through you, Mayor. So existing properties weren't touched. So anybody that lives along Mill Street, those individual houses on the north side, they're not affected with the road widening because those are all private properties. So we only did a road widening on the developer's land itself. So the south side, except for 67 Mill Street, it goes right from the last house on King Street all the way to the 10th line. So that entire strip was done, and 67 Mill Street was done when that house was severed off. 112 Mill Street was part of that farmland as well. On the north side, we did a road widening on it and the remaining lands, but the existing houses all the way along are private property, and they're not affected by this subdivision or road wide. So even though it's only on the south side, we still have ample road allowance along where the existing houses are. Because you wouldn't want.
Go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, you would, none of the ratepayers on the north side, because a new developer comes into town or there's a development going on, would want us to come along and say, yeah, we're doing a road widening in front of your place and your place and your place.
Don't want that.
No. We're keeping it on the developer's land. On that part, we're not affecting the existing property owners. Hopefully that answers your question.
And did I miss it? Did you say there is a potential for gas coming down the 10th?
Through you, Mayor, it would make perfect sense for it to come down the 10th line and circulate back in through town, because like the town, for water, they love loops as well.
Yeah.
So they can isolate a problem area and still feed the existing town or subdivision or whatever it is. So with a bit of luck, it would come down the 10th.
Calling every 5 years.
Just to be clear on that, water and sewer is a municipal issue. Yes, we have no control
Oh,
over
I know
that.
that.
But a lot of times,
Just-
as Ed said, when we're doing that kind of stuff, that is the time they tend to jump on board.
And sorry.
Yes.
Mayor, through you, on the question of the road widening. It varies because the property lines are not straight. So it ranges from 3.8 meters up to about 5 meters, closer to King, in terms of the property being taken off my client's property. With regards to utilities, all of them, those utilities have been contacted. And as part of the subdivision works and the detailed design, and including Mill Street, will be incorporating the full municipal services in terms of hydro communications, natural gas, as part of the standard subdivision design process.
Are you gonna bury as much as you can, or is my backyard gonna be filled with wire?
I don't have the answers to that I'm not an engineer, but obviously we want to create as best a product as possible for the subdivision, which would mean burying water, sewer.
Ed?
Water, sewer for sure. Hydro would be the only one.
Yeah, like my Wi-Fi wire and all that.
So through you, Mayor. If you take a drive up in DPH phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, you don't see any above
Any
ground
wires.
infrastructure. So you have streetlights, but the wire feeding the streetlights are below.
Yeah.
Feeds to the houses, the Bell Communications or whatever it is, gas, they're all below grade.
That's what it most likely be. I can't guarantee it, but
I want to.
wires above nowadays is not something they do.
So I'm confused because you say you're not for the road, you're not taking anything off the north side. As far as I understand it, you own some of the north side of my frontage. You're not taking that?
Through you, Mayor. So we're not taking any additional lands on private properties.
Property.
Right, okay, so, but some of my front yard would just be because you already own it.
If we already own it, then that's
Yeah.
already road
Yeah.
allowance.
Yeah. I thought you said you weren't taking anything off the lot. Great, got it, I understand that.
No further questions? All right, I'll read the recommended motion then. That the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information. And further, that the council directs staff to prepare a bylaw that will rezone the lands to the following zones: residential 1 exception, 13 holding, R1-13H zone. Residential 1, 14 holding, R1-14H zone, residential 1 exception 15 holding, R1 section 15H zone, residential 1 exception 16 holding, R1-16H zone, and residential 2 exception 3 holdings, R2-3 section H zone, and open space exception 8 OS-8H zone. Can we have a mover for the motion, Deputy Mayor Burt?
I'll make a motion with a recorded vote.
Yes.
Want to reread that?
I'll let my treasurer go ahead and read this up. Or, sorry, my clerk.
They got it.
Mover,
Seconded.
seconder. All right, and we'll call the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Deputy Mayor Burt,
Yes.
Councilor Hodgkins,
Yes.
Councilor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Dolford.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Okay, thank you. Ed, would you please continue with the second application? What's this?
I just wondered if you want to take a recess, because some of these people may want to leave and not listen to the next one. It's up to you.
Yes, we'll call for a recess then. Deputy Mayor Byrd, Councillor Hodgkins. I have a motion to resume the public meeting. Deputy Mayor Byrd, Councillor War, all in favor? Motion's carried. Ed, I'll let you continue on, please.
Through you, Mayor. Zoning bylaw amendment 05-2024. Crowley. So this is an old severance. B-171-22.
Right.
And so this has come back and forth to council a few times. The application is to create a new farm parcel of land. It's about 103 acres and over 1,800 feet of frontage on 7th line. So that application came to council in February 2023. We recommended approval of that application. The county subsequently approved it, but during the approval of that severance, they put conditions on, and one of the condition was that the owner, Crowley's, enter into a mitigation measures agreement with the township.
Right.
That was a county approval condition. That was not a township condition. The opponent, Mr. Crowley, had his lawyers prepare the mitigation measures agreement. In April of last year, 9th, we brought the mitigation measures agreement to council. And staff and council were not in agreement to this mitigation measures agreement, and the application was denied. There was no authorization to execute that agreement. So we went back to the drawing board and we spoke to the county. And we asked if, in order to satisfy that condition, if we made all development subject to site plan control, whether that would satisfy the mitigation measures agreement. And that site plan control meant the entire parcel, the 103 acres. So whether it's the environmental protection area, whether it's the agricultural area or a small little piece of rural on the property, every one of them will be zoned an exception zone to make any and all development subject to site plan control. So this application is applicable to concession 7 and it's part lot 7 in the township of Asphodel-Norwood. So it's going to amend portion of the property from ag to ag exception, from environmental protection to environmental protection exception, and rural to rural exception. Make every bit of development subject to site plan control. So if they put in a new entrance, it's subject to site plan control. We'll make sure if ORC is required, we'll have their permit in place. We'll do proper silt fencing. We'll monitor it, make sure that there's no runoff and no sand and fines running into ponds or anything. If they put up any buildings, any building permit, it'll be required to go through site plan control. There's an application fee. It's $1,500. There's a $3,500 deposit that's put on in our hands. We just make sure that they do whatever it is that they have to do. And then we give them the deposit back unless we have to do something that costs us money. And then we deduct that from their deposit. We'll have to keep an eye on the property and make sure that if we see any development going on, that we review the mitigation measures agreement and make sure they're in compliance with it. The mitigation measures agreement is identified in the proposed bylaw coming up. And it'll be reviewed each and every time something is done on the property to make sure that it's okay. And we'll also take advantage of Orca and use their expertise too when it comes to species at risk or wetlands or something else that they might be doing in there, and make sure that they comply with the mitigation measures agreement. There's a whole section in there that deals with what they should do. So through the engagement part of this application, we posted it on the site. We posted on the township website. Everybody within 120 meters of the site were circulated. The various agencies were all circulated. We got comments back from county engineering, no concerns. Bridge Gas, no concerns. Orca comments we just received today, no concerns were noted. They just spoke about the mitigation measures agreement, and then Orca permits would be required if they're in their regulated area. Even if they're not in their regulated area and they do development, I would still circulate Orca. To make sure.
Yeah.
You know, on this one and this one pretty much only. If you're not in the regulated area, generally I don't go to Orca whatsoever, but this is subject to site plan control, so it should be circulated to Orca. And Court of Pine Ridge District School Board, we received comments January 10th, and no concerns were noted in it as well. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and then there's that appeal notice as well.
All right, Councillor Hodge-Greaves.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I thought, what development would be on this land? I thought this was an agricultural portion of land. Is it agricultural purposes? I understood this, that when it was severed, it was not to be residential. Is it other kinds of development?
Through you, Mayor. Any kind of development, regardless of what it is, will be subject to site plan control. If something is triggered, like an application for an entrance, if they're gonna put a laneway in, if they're gonna put in any barns, if they're gonna put drive sheds in, or if they were to dig a pond, or if they were to do something else in there, the property doesn't prohibit residential uses because it's over 100 acres in size, it's still a farm parcel and a house is permitted on a farm parcel. The only time, just continue on for the no residential uses are permitted, is if they sever off an existing farmhouse, then the remnants of that entire farm, however much area it is residential uses are prohibited. So that's not the case here. It's an actual vacant 100-acre parcel of land that they're creating. It's over 200 acres to start with. They did the first severance that they did was, they severed the house off of it, and that was on the 8th line. So the remnants of that area prohibits residential uses, the remnants of that 100 acres. So on this 100 acres, it's just agricultural, environmental protection, and rural. A house is permitted on that property, but again, if they put a septic on, it would be subject to site plan control. If they put a house on, site plan control of driveways. They could deal with several things all in one application, or every time they do something, they could go through site plan control.
Deputy Mayor Burke?
Yeah, thank you through you. Thank you very much, Ed, for the report. Yeah, this looks much better than the last time you brought it back to us, and I think we've got some control over it, that it's not going to cost us money, because before it was kind of put back on our plate. Just so one thing, and I'm certainly, I can make the motion with the recommendation. I wouldn't mind adding on there to the recommendation, and we'll see where it goes. Further, that the Public Works Supervisor review and investigate the unauthorized entrance that was installed by the owner and recommend any mitigation measures that need to be taken with any costs incurred by the landowner as required. There was a driveway put in, which
Yes.
there wasn't supposed to be, so I just wanted to make sure that that was in the recommendation as well, if everybody's in agreement with that.
Before we go on with the motion, and I do agree with that. Thank you, Ed. And again, just for the meeting record, there is no persons in attendance to speak in support or opposition of this application. That being said, and the right of appeal,
I'll read it.
you'll read it now, Ed, and then we'll do the recommended motion.
I did, right? Okay, through you, Mayor. If a specified person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Asphodel-Norwood before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And if a specified person or public body does not make oral submissions at this public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Asphodel-Norwood before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. And anybody wishing to be notified of the decision must make written request to the Township of Asphodel-Norwood. And quote, the appropriate file number is at BLA-03-2024. And happy to answer any other questions if there are any.
Any further questions of that? I'll read the recommended motion, and do you want to amend it with that? Okay. That the council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information, and further that the council directs staff to prepare a bylaw that will rezone a portion of the subject lands to agricultural exemption 11A11 zone, environmental protection exception to EP2 zone, and rural exception 15 RU 15 zone.
Do I need to make a motion first with an amendment? Can I add to it?
I think if you just want to add on to it, then that can be the motion that's adopted.
Okay. And further, the Public Works Supervisor review and investigate the unauthorized entrance which was installed by the landowner and recommend any mitigation measures that may need to be taken with any costs incurred by the landowner as required. Or something like that.
You so move.
I'll move that, yes.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Burt,
Seconded, but I would like a recorded vote, please.
seconded by Councillor War, and a recorded vote.
Councillor War,
Yes.
Mayor Wilford,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burt,
Yes,
Councillor Hodges.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
I'll now ask for a motion of adjournment of the public meeting on January 14th, and the time is 3:17 to resume our regular council meeting. Motion by Councillor Hodge Greaves, seconder by Councillor War. All in favor? Motion's carried. Yes, thank you. We did ask if there was business arising from the minutes, which we passed last, right? Second,
General business.
general business. I did ask about that, did I not? And there was no general business control?
no.
Okay, sorry. General business, does anybody have anything they would like to discuss? Councillor or Deputy Mayor Burt.
Yes, just as direction from our clerk, we need to add in our two special meetings on Friday, February 7th and Friday, February 21st, both at 10 a.m.
We need a motion for that.
Please.
So moved. Seconder, Councillor Hodge Greaves. All in favor? Motion's carried. Any other discussions for general business? No? All right, we're now going to move into a closed session to review and evaluate the CAO's 2024 fourth quarter and 2025 performance objectives. We do this in accordance with section 239, section 2 of the Municipal Act, and the time is 3:18. Can I get a motion, please? Councillor Hodge Greaves. Second by Councillor War. All in favor? Motion's carried. See how it'll work. We're now back to our open session and the time is 3:45. We have no notice of motions, so we'll move into the bylaws and I'll ask the clerk to read first, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. That the bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy and the payment of interim taxes for the year 2025 be read a first, second, and third time and numbered 2025-01.
Deputy Mayor Burt and Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? Motion is carried.
That the bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing from time to time to meet current expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31, 2025 be read a first, second, and third time and numbered 2025-02.
Councillor Hodge Greaves, Councillor War, all in favor? Motion is carried.
That the bylaw to impose water service charges for users of the Norwood water system in the township of Asphodel-Norwood be read a first, second, and third time and numbered 2025-03.
Deputy Mayor Burt and Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? Motion is carried.
That the bylaw to impose wastewater service charges for users of the Norwood wastewater system in the township of Asphodel-Norwood be read a first, second, and third time and numbered 2025-04.
Councillor War and Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? Motion is carried.
That the bylaw to set water service charges for users of the Trent View Estates water system in the township of Asphodel-Norwood be read a first, second, and third time and numbered 2025-05.
Councillor Hodge Greaves, Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? Motion is carried.
That the bylaw to amend bylaw number 2009-8 as amended, being a bylaw to regulate the use of land and the use and erection of buildings and structures within the township of Asphodel-Norwood, be read a first, second, and third time and numbered 2025-06.
Councillor War and Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? That motion is carried.
And again, that the bylaw to amend bylaw number 2009-8 as amended, being a bylaw to regulate the use of land and the use and erection of buildings and structures within the township of Asphodel-Norwood, be read a first, second, and third time and numbered to 2025-07.
Mayor Burt. Council Ward, all in favor? Motion's carried.
And our confirmatory bylaw, that the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held January 14, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time and numbered to 2025-08.
Councillor Ward, Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? All in favor? Motion's carried.
Sorry,
My
arms.
Yeah. Councillors, you see the future meeting schedule in front of you. Just looking there, the two meetings that we mentioned earlier,
We'll add those in.
we'll add those in there. Okay, thank you. And that concludes our business today. I'd like to thank council. That was a long agenda and we got through it fairly successful and quickly. Not meaning quickly because it was quickly, but to get through everything that was presented there from Ed was a lot. And thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, and the time is 3:49. Deputy Mayor Burt and Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? Motion is carried.